Hey, family, and welcome to the Good News feed. I'm always in my kitchen, so I'm going to feed you the good news. In this episode, the good news is coming all the way from Connecticut from a very concerned parent, Veronica DeLandro, and she's going to give us the good news. And when you see her, I want to know some good news about those earrings she has on. Hey, Veronica.
Hey, Yolanda. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm glad you decided to join us to speak on behalf of parents of Black children in the Black Lives Matter movement. So what's the good news besides these lovely earrings? Where do you get them from? What's going on with them? I love them.
I can't remember where I got these. I don't know if I got them in Harlem at the flea market or somebody's market. I purchased them, and I have some green ones and red ones. So, and normally I don't wear these type of earrings, but I said, when I started wearing braids, I like to wear something a little more bold because the earrings that I would usually wear, they would get lost behind my braids. So,
well, they are certainly making a bold statement in this revolution. They are ready.
Girl, I'm ready.
Those earrings said the revolution will be televised.
Yeah.
So what's the good news in Connecticut? Talk to us.
So here's the good news. The good news is that young people are getting involved, engaged. They're speaking up. They're saying enough is enough. They're saying you done mess with the wrong generation, because we are tired collectively of seeing people, whether you Black or white, whomever, we're tired of seeing the same thing over and over again, and that is Black men and Black women dying at the hands of law enforcement. And so to go, what is it now, week 3 of protests in cities and towns across the country, says a lot. That this wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't we did it one time, we're good to go. But to see mayors and governors put forth executive orders and resolutions saying we're going to do something starting now, we're not going to wait. That's the good thing that's happening. I've seen it here in New Britain with a young group. They're called the New Britain I'm going to say revolution, racial justice. But it started with the march that they held, the Sunday after George Floyd was killed, and I participated, and it was very inspiring to see it be led and organized by young. And it feels funny to me saying young people because I consider myself young,
right?
But I know the younger generation is definitely using their voice. And my hope is that everyone continues this momentum through November, and that we show up at the polls and really use our voice for action.
Yes, every time I think about young people, I think about the phrase, and the children shall lead. And honey, they are leading. And I cannot be more proud of them. I have a former 8th grade student who will be a senior now. She was just elected to be the voice for the school board, the student school board. And when I tell you this young lady is sharp, she digs deep. And it's not just, I'm going to take this position to say I have it on my resume, but I'm going to take it seriously. So I'm very glad that we have the voices of the young folks. And now I sound like a grandma. The young folks out here doing it.
Right.
Yeah, that was us just 22 years ago. Oh,
right. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And later about our reunion times. Hampton University grad, mother, wife. You're here in this world now, in this space, in this time, advocating for your 4 and 8-year-old. So. As you think about your role as a parent and a Christian wife, a mother, an advocate for the lives of Black people everywhere, not just in Connecticut, what are some of your biggest concerns, and where do you want that change to happen? If you had to pick one area, because this is a big elephant and we're going to eat one piece at a time. Pardon the elephant reference.
Well, thank you so much. Well, that's, it's hard to nail it down to one area to change, but the only thing I can think about is the future of my children. Mm-hmm. So what would have the most impact on them would obviously be education. But everything is so intertwined that that the biggest, when you talk about systemic racism, and it's embedded in everything that we are a part of, in housing, in education, in our health. So we're trying to get equality and equity across the board. It feels like mission impossible, but while I don't think we will see it in our lifetime, I think in generations to come, if we continue to put forth, and I always use the hashtag apply the pressure, because I think it's time to really start holding our elected officials accountable and applying the pressure for them to do what we elected you to do, and not just use it as an opportunity to sit and not put forth any change, because change really comes down to, I won't say it really comes down to policy. Most of it is policy. It's embedded in how we function and operate, whether it be on a government level, whether in our jobs, whether it's, it comes down to policies. And if we don't change those policies, if we don't change the ordinances, if we don't change the bylaws, all of these rules and regulations that govern how we live, nothing is going to change. Because people talk about, we need training, we need people to receive more education. I was on a call earlier today where the executive director said that they provided books for all staff to read about being anti-racist, and I'm thinking that's nice, but what you gonna do when you're done reading the book? Right. Are you going to change anything, or is it just something for people to check off saying that they did? Which I know it's not. That they've outlined several things that they're going to do, but I just don't want people to get comfortable with just saying, okay, I went to a march, I'm reading up on how not to be racist, I think I'm all set. No, we got to push further and dig deeper and hold and go to our state capitals, our city halls, our town halls, our board of ed meetings, our city council meetings, and tell these people enough is enough, and we have to change how we do things, because clearly what we're doing now is not working.
All right. So you have also mentioned that change doesn't occur in a vacuum. We hear that quite often. For those who hear it but don't understand what that means and how to follow through with that, what do you say to them?
Well, I had this conversation with the younger people in the community who are advocating. I said, I think it's great that what they're doing. But my thing is, I don't want to get away with what someone else has started doing. I know where my lane is, and not that people need to stay in their lane. I think you can still work together for the same mission, but you have to apply pressure at different angles. So you have people who are strong in advocacy and in policy work. Put the pressure there. You have people who are good at organizing and mobilizing people. Put the pressure there. You have people who are good at researching and getting information out there so that people know what's going on. Put the pressure there. We don't need everybody everybody can't show up at the march and then ain't nobody advocating and putting in the policy, doing the research on what bills we need to be calling and saying you need to vote for, if we all just marching and no one has done the research and no one knows what we should be doing. So you have to have people, everybody got a role.
Yes, they do.
What is your role? We need people to make signs. We need people to make the sandwiches. We need people to call, provide the list of numbers for your elected officials. Here's the number, here's the email address, here's the sample letter. So you don't have to do any work, don't have to think about it. You need people all over to help push forth this movement.
I'm really glad that you brought that out, because I struggled with the fact that I'm not able to be a physical body in the march, because a few years ago I would have been, but when you become a parent, and then you have a husband who's a firefighter, so he's a first responder. You don't know when he's going to get called. You can't just up and say, "Come on, 4-year-old, we're going down," and he's like, "What? But what about the Paw Patrol?" So I can't,
what about COVID,
right? Don't you want to stay alive? He's like, Paw Patrol. So what I had to do is sit down and figure out a way to get people like you to come in and share out other ways that people can be involved for those who are unsure of how to participate in the movement. There are so many moving parts, even down to helping and this is a small step, but helping someone who is economically disadvantaged to rise up. So those people who are researchers or those people who have that information, if we are oppressed in that area, that person who has that background with finance, to at least get that person who's never had a bank account, it's always been operating in cash. At this point, and because this is where we are, if there's a black bank around, put that money into the black bank. If you're cooking fried chicken in your kitchen, that person who has a business, take somebody else. Like that's part of us being able to get those moving parts in order to have a seat at the table and to be able to share. So I'm really glad that you brought some of those things out to help others. Thank you. Appreciate that. So one of the things that I really love about you, beyond being a parent, beyond being a wife, beyond being a superwoman, you do so many things in the community as a volunteer, as a career woman. And one thing I was so impressed with is that you decided to take on the task of working with College Summit, which is a great opportunity in the movement to educate our young Black boys and girls and give them a voice. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I really enjoyed my time at College Summit. It's been almost 5 years since I last worked at the organization, but I was there for 5 years and really was there to help build out the Connecticut region. And I want to shout out Gary Lennon, who's now the president of what is now called Peer Forward. Really happy for him because he was someone I interviewed with in the New York region before I was hired. But it's a great family. And I still stay in touch with a lot of people from the organization. We're like family because we care deeply about the young people. And what I like even more about College Summit was that it really catered to just the average Jaquan, not Joe. If there are programs that are out there for the students that are exceeding, and that's great. And then there's time and attention spent to those students who aren't doing so well. But you always miss those kids that are right in the middle, that don't get that attention, that are just kind of gliding by. And College Summit kind of changed that by providing them with an opportunity to bring them to a campus that many of them have never been to: Yale, UConn, Monmouth, Manhattan College, all over the country. I'm naming the ones that we had in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. But to bring them there, not just for some programs, okay, you come here for the day and you go back. No, they stayed and they slept in the dorm. They ate in the cafeteria. They did their workshops in the classroom. So to really get them in the mindset of being on a college campus, because unfortunately, it's one of those things. And what I loved about College Summit is that the theme is show, don't tell. We can't tell these kids what to do. We have to show them. So we show them by bringing them to the campus, by introducing them to people to help find their voice or bring out their inner voice in them, to help them advocate for themselves. Versus, where with the personal statement, which you were as a writing coach, right, which is powerful because everyone has a story. And that's what I think that generation, the students that we work with that were high school students, are the ones that are now the 20-somethings leading these protests because they're finding their voice. They're advocating for themselves. They're saying, this is a lot. This is too much. And Lord knows we don't want to be here another 50, 60 years of seeing people unarmed, getting killed for absolutely no reason. And so right. I think that generation, there's something special about them where they're taking it to the streets and they're saying, look, and they're organizing. It's right. Not done just randomly. There's effort being put forth to make their message known.
And in the words of Dave Chappelle, he says the streets are talking. The streets are fighting back.
Right.
Yeah. So if I had to sum up what we talked about today, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then I add to it, and then we're going to close out here. Everyone has a story to tell, a voice to use. Now take action and move change forward. Would that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
All right.
And go vote. And go vote. And go vote.
Or run for office. And run for office.
Yes. Yes. Because look, I ordered a shirt, and that's another plug for, it's a soror that owns it. It's called #Your Seat Ain't Safe. I ordered a shirt because we need to let people know we're not going to tolerate you just being in these seats on a local, state, federal level forever and a day and not doing anything. Your seat ain't safe, and we will vote you out, and we will take your seat. So,
okay, instead of take several seats, we're going to take several seats.
Right.
That's a different take on that. Any last words as we close out the good news with Veronica DeLandro of New Britain?
Well, I just thank you, Yolanda, for having me. I appreciate it, because I said, I'm like, what does she want to talk to me about? But I appreciate this opportunity because, you know, there's so much that has happened, and we went from one pandemic to the next. And I shared on a prayer call last week that it took a global pandemic, and I saw this on someone else's page, for the world to come to a complete stop to see how Black people are being treated in America. It took a global pandemic, because we've seen it before, but it's just like, oh, that's bad, Black Lives Matter, and then we on about our business the next week. But now we're like, no, this is ridiculous. This has to stop. And so hopefully, well, again, we may not see it in our lifetime, but in generations from now, we will see some change. So you have to be the change that you wish to see.
I love it. Well, thank you again for joining the Good News feed. I'm always in my kitchen, so I'm feeding you the good news. Thank you for eating with me today.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.